I'm in a little better mood this morning than I was on Saturday morning. We won our first game last night. We were 0-4-2 going in, so I would have been pretty pissed off this morning if we'd have started the season without a win. But I want to make sure that this doesn't come off as preachy, this conversation. This talk has had many different names. It started out as the road to nowhere, right? Youth sports, the road to nowhere. Everybody's in a hurry, and we all end up at the same place, right? Beer league. We've changed it a little bit. You see here, Guardians of the Game. I like to call it different lessons learned. You're on the grassroots. You guys are in the pits. What you do is incredibly important, not just to hockey, but without, I don't want to sound too large, but to society. I think that sports are a great teacher of life. That's why I do what I do. At the end of the day, we got to win hockey games, for me to keep my job. And whenever your team pulls a jersey over their heads, they better want to win, because I think winning's a good life lesson too. But I get into coaching to teach, to have an effect on people's lives, and you do it on a daily basis. So first of all, I thank you, and again, I want to make sure that this doesn't come off as preachy. Millennials, and I see some familiar faces here that have heard this spiel before. Millennials take a beating from our generation, and I know we're not all the same age here. There's some people in here that still have hair. So, a good friend of mine is a former Marine Special Forces platoon leader, and he has a company called The Program. We bring him in every year, and he says, pardon my French, bullshit. Millennials are no different than we are, right? They didn't raise themselves. We raised them. So they're the way they are because of how we've chosen to raise our children. He tells a great story of a good friend of his was a commander of an armored tank battalion. And they leave the gates of the encampment, and they're out no more than a mile, and their Humvee hits an IED. One person's killed automatically. He has a broken leg. He's out cold, wakes up 20 minutes later. The person driving the Humvee is a 19-year-old with a 12-inch piece of shrapnel in his leg. He's a millennial, okay? But the standard that they set in the Marines is so high, and the accountability is so great that this young person does what they're trained to do. So that's what sports can do as well. What am I pressing here? Oh, there we go. No, that ain't it.
Millennial will help you with that.
Well done. Well done. My guys love it. I love technology. My guys love it when it shits the bed on me. What button am I pressing?
This one right here.
That one. That's what I thought I was pressing. All right, good. We're good. Here you go, guys.
Doctor, I need you to help my son. He has hurt his knee.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon and would be happy to help, but first you must tell me what happened.
He has hurt his knee very badly, and we need it fixed right away. Can you fix it? Can you fix it now?
Can you tell me what happened to your son's knee?
He is an elite athlete. He is extremely talented, and he has hurt his knee. We need it fixed right away. Can you fix it?
I will try, but please tell me what happened to his knee. What kind of athlete is he?
He is elite.
I see, but can you tell me specifically what type of athlete he is?
He is talented. More specifically, he is gifted. Now will you fix his knee? We need it done soon.
I can give it a shot, but I need more information. Perhaps you can tell me what sport he plays.
Yes, he plays every sport, and he is elite. He is being scouted, and he will soon have a scholarship, so we need him fixed now.
Can you tell me where your son is currently?
He is at the gym training.
You did bring him with you?
His coach says that he must train. The scouts are looking at him.
How old is your son?
He is 6.
It is 10 in the morning. Shouldn't he be in school?
He cannot afford to be in school. Not if he is going to get a scholarship.
Maybe we should talk about this. You say that he is an elite athlete. He is 6 years old. How did you come to the conclusion that he is elite?
His coach. His coach told us, and he is a professional.
The coach of your 6-year-old is a professional?
Yes. We know he is a professional because we pay him. We pay him lots of money, and he tells us that our son is elite. Because he is elite, he must spend many hours at the gym. He is so elite that we pay by the hour. The coach says that this is good.
I think I have a diagnosis, but first I need to go through a checklist of symptoms. Are you ready?
Certainly.
Have you ever been involved in a fight on the sidelines of your son's soccer match?
Yes.
Have you ever been told to shut the hell up and sit your ass down at a Little League game?
Yes.
Do you consider hockey just a pansy sport for kids who can't play football?
Of course.
Good. Then I have a diagnosis.
That is excellent. What is wrong with my son?
The diagnosis is not your son's, but it is yours. It is called athlete surrogate syndrome, or just plain S.
It'd be funny if it wasn't true, though, right? It'd be funny if it wasn't true. Listen, I'm in the business of sports, right? But we talk as a staff all the time. We can't believe how important sports have become in our society, right? Great book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And the premise is simple. Before you enter into anything, start with why you're doing it, right? So if you're a coach, well, why are you doing it? Why are you coaching? If you want to put your child in a sport, why do you want to do that? All right? I was raised single-parent mom. She's the one that put me in hockey. She put me in hockey for a couple reasons. I grew up in Dorchester, so the first reason was to get me off the corner. Meet new people, make friends, learn some life lessons, right? Whether it's dedication, goal setting, teamwork, no visions at all of high school, college, pros, none. As a matter of fact, I remember sitting with my mother at a hockey game. I was probably 8, 9 years old, and we were watching a midget hockey game. And it was, they're banging bodies, and my mother said, you'll never play at that level. I'm not letting you. That's crazy. But as you move up, you get acclimated, and I end up playing, luckily enough. But why? So why are you putting your child into hockey? All right. It's my contention that if you're putting your child into hockey for anything other than those reasons, then you've already failed. If you've put your child into hockey to make the pros, to go to college, to get a scholarship, even to play high school, right? You've set that young person up for failure. Because there are so many things that are out of your control, right? So if your son, for whatever reason, tears his ACL, and all that pressure that's put on by parents, and you've seen it, now you've burdened that young person with the feeling that they've somehow failed you. I tell people all the time, I can guarantee you a scholarship, right? I can guarantee you have a child, I can guarantee you a scholarship. Take all the money you'd spend in hockey, put it into 529. You can go anywhere you want. Anywhere you want. So why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you coaching? Why are you, as a parent, putting your son or daughter into hockey? This is a letter from Eric Kapitulik. He's a pretty intense guy. This is the former Marine. He's coaching his son's 6-year-old lacrosse team. And there's a couple funny parts. If you go down to the third paragraph, he sent this to all the parents. First and foremost, we're going to have fun. This is an instructional lacrosse, and I'll be sure to teach your child how to throw, catch, pick up a ground ball. Of course, all of us want to do things that, A, we're good at, B, that are fun. I have a little bit of control over the former, but 100% control over the latter. I will be sure to do so. With that said, your child has the responsibility to come to practice with a good attitude and make it fun, right? So as coaches, we want to make it fun. He actually puts the onus on the parents and the player. Find a way to make it fun, okay? At the start of every practice, the athletes will line up, shake hands with the coaches, and say hello. He's not talking about X's and O's, right? He's talking about make eye contact. That's probably the first place I learned it. Look me in the eye, shake my hand. We will race, compete in almost every drill. When the teams are competing, if your son or daughter is not involved, they will be instructed and made to cheer on their teammates. This is my favorite part. My wife has provided me guidance to me and suggested that I do not offer my thoughts on habitual tardiness or on parents who complain about the weather until we all become more familiar with each other. He's got a now a 7-year-old son, Axel, and it's really funny. You know, you'll say, "Hey, Axel, is there anything such thing as bad weather?" And he says, "Nope, just soft men." So, this is level 4, right? And we look at the development model as a pyramid, okay? And I know a lot of you, level 4, you're coaching some older kids. Some of them still playing just for the fun. Others, it's starting to get more serious, okay? But the pyramid of development's really important. And we like to look at the top, and obviously we're closer to the top at college hockey than youth sports. But the reality is the most important part is the base. The most important part is the base, okay? And I think that we can put together a development model for both the top and the base. I've got a vested interest. I've got 3 daughters that play. I'm not sure if my daughter Kelsey scored that goal, but I'm pretty sure because her hands are up first that you got to help her on it at least. So I'm invested at both ends of this. But let's get something straight. You can call it whatever you want, and I don't know what the current term is. Back when I played, it was A, B, and C, right? Then it went to AAA, and then it was Elite and Premier and Chance. I don't know what the next one is, but let's make something perfectly straight. Oh. The one on the left is Elite. That's Elite. The one on the right is recreational. I don't care what league you're playing in. There's no such thing as an elite 8-year-old, right? They are literally the best of the worst. I was on Twitter the other day. Don't bother following me. My best friend has banned me from writing anything political on Twitter. And my assistant coach has banned me from writing about youth sports on Twitter. So I'm basically just a viewer of Twitter right now. But I got a post. Some young person was, congratulations, you've been invited to the U12 Top Prospects Showcase. And it was 14s, 12s, 10s, and 8s. And they used the term student athletes. And I thought to myself, you're not a student athlete at that age, you're a kid. You're a kid. That's what you are. So we can call it whatever we want, right? Left is elite, right is recreation. So how are we doing in Massachusetts, okay? How are we doing in Massachusetts? Because at one point, we were the showcase. At one point, we were the focal point, or one of the top 2 focal points in hockey development, all right, in the United States. Let's start at the top, okay? In 2003, Massachusetts had 185 Division I players. In 2016, we had 112. That's a 40% decrease. You're not going to see that in any of the EHF pamphlets. That's 40%, okay? No other state in the country is in double digits. None. Negative. Right? And you could say, well, I mean, look at Austin Matthews. He's from Arizona, and there's players from Florida. Okay, that's great. How come it's not affecting Minnesota's development? How come it's not affecting Michigan's development? New York's development? In 2016-17, there were 16 Massachusetts-born NHL hockey players. That's great. Okay? You look at a couple elite ones like Noah Hannafin and Jack Eichel. That's great, right? Sweden has the identical registration numbers as Massachusetts for males, right? So if Massachusetts was a country, we would be the 8th largest country playing hockey. Okay? Sweden has almost the identical numbers as we do. They have 66 NHL players, and they have 2 professional hockey leagues in their country. All right? I've watched some of the senior league games recently. It doesn't look like professional hockey to me. Right? I just saw a stat, and it's a pretty good stat. There are more Americans playing in the NHL today than ever before. And 85% of those Americans played college hockey. That's great. And that's a number we're trying to promote so that when kids are deciding what they want to do, college hockey is an option. Well, in 1990, 25% of all the Americans in the NHL, where'd they come from? Here. In 1990, 25% of the Americans playing in the NHL came from Massachusetts. Number 1 in the country. You know where we are now? 4th. And we're at 10%. We're at 10%. Now that's at the top. Where do elite players come from? And listen, I don't know that I coach any elite players, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm sure you hear it all the time as coaches. You know, geez, my son's not playing with anybody who's his line mate. They're not as good as he is. They're holding him back. What I remind people all the time is Wayne Gretzky never played with anyone as good as him. Ever. It did not stop him from being the best player ever, one of them. Bobby Orr is the best in my mind, but same thing. He never played with anybody as good as him, right? But where do they come from? You've heard all this, you know, everybody's got a theory, right? Who knows what the 10,000 hour rule is? What's the 10,000 hour rule?
10,000 hours of practice makes you an elite, whatever.
10,000 hours of practice makes you elite whatever, okay? And unfortunately, that's what has been promoted, right? It's actually called Erickson's Law, and the bad news is, or the real news is, 10,000 is the average, right? For someone, it might take them 40,000 hours, and for a guy like Tiger Woods, it might take him 2,000 hours. And it's specific type of practice in specific types of events. So chess or gymnastics so it doesn't cover everything, and 10,000 is the average. I had a kid come in a couple years ago, a freshman, and he had 10,000 hours tattooed on his arm. And I said, you realize that's an average, right? So everybody loves, you know, it came from Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. Who's read Outliers? Raise your hand. Yeah. I used to recommend it to people. I don't recommend it to parents anymore. Okay? The whole premise of Outliers is, in our society, you've got outliers, special people who are able to do great things, and it studies what they do, right? Well, here's the problem. Every parent that reads the book, who's the outlier? If every kid's an outlier, there's no such thing as outliers. So Tiger Woods is an outlier, right? He's a freak of nature. Brian Leach, who I was lucky enough to watch, he's an outlier. I saw him golf with 2 guys that had never golfed before in a scramble, came in as a -7. Brian Leach was the #1 pitcher on the Avon Old Farms baseball team. The #2 pitcher was Juan Nieves, who played in Major League Baseball and was a Red Sox pitching coach a couple years ago. He's a freak. He's an outlier. Not every kid is an outlier. Another great book called The Sports Gene, and this is why I'm bringing it back to you guys, okay? The Sports Gene has a very simple principle, right? Is it nurture or is it nature? Is it nurture? We're trying to develop a good athlete. Is it nurture? Is it nature? It's probably both, but if you have to pick one, bet nature all the time, right? If you're a 7-foot-tall American male between the ages of 25 and 34, there is a 17% chance you're in the NBA right now. If you're not 7 feet, those chances go down dramatically. So if you want to produce more elite players, and so for my sake, as much as I like going to Calgary, right, Flin Flon, Manitoba, not so much. I'd love to be able to recruit locally, right? So how do we grow this game? You got to build the base. You got to build the base. We need more kids playing, not fewer. We don't need to go to elite teams at 8 years old. So we tell certain 8-year-olds you're not good enough. How do you know you're not good enough? He's 8. And listen, this isn't kumbaya, right? This isn't kumbaya, everybody gets a trophy. That's not what this is about. But one of the things Sweden does that's so inclusive, they don't play 5-on-5 hockey until the kids are 12 years old, right? We've got the ADM model now, where they play 3-on-3 hockey. Massachusetts was the last state in the United States to bring it in because no one wanted it. That's not hockey, right? That's not hockey. I want to see 5-on-5. I coached my daughter's U10 team. We spent 70% of our time lining them up for faceoffs, right? We have a coach in college right now, coaching at the Division III level. He's toying with the idea of coaching positionless hockey. Left wing, right wing, center. Where'd that come from, right? It's about finding a 2-on-1, being able to play a 1-on-1. I can tell you right now, I have never recruited a player because he could play left wing. Man, that kid could play the hell out of a left wing, right? I want a guy who's 6'1", can skate, sees the ice, plays with some grit, is coachable. I don't have to deal with his parents, all right? Sport specialization doesn't work. As a matter of fact, it hinders the sport. Roger Federer was an elite soccer player. Stefan DaCosta was probably the best player I ever coached. He could have played for our tennis team or our soccer team, right? And I have MC hockey and hoops. I'm not saying I was a good basketball player, but I played at BNBL, all right? I played Boston Neighborhood Basketball League. I had 5 fouls a game, right? You know, I was a lefty. But I remember going to BC, and we had a meeting. And, you know, it was in the gym, and guys are shooting around. And this one guy was like, it was like he'd never touched a basketball before. And he was probably one of the early adopters of sports specialization. I was kind of like, you know, did you grow up under a rock? Like, have you never played basketball, right? Now I watch our guys play hoops, and it's I'm like, just stop. Holy smokes. Like, you're going to hurt yourself, first of all. So sports specialization doesn't work. We want to build the base. How do we build the base? I think this is the goal of youth sports. And this is where you guys come in. And I say guys, men, women, okay? Create an environment where children can fall in love with the sport. That's it. That's your job. Create an environment where kids can fall in love with hockey. At some point along the line, I fell in love with hockey. My father didn't play. My mother had never been exposed to it, all right? But I was in, and there were some coaches, and there was an environment that I just loved the sport, and still do, okay? And if you create that environment, you're going to get more kids to come and play, right? And the more kids that come and play, the better chance we have at developing elite athletes. Your numbers go up. It's like buying a lottery ticket. The more tickets you have, the better chance you have of winning. I'm old. I believe in old school principles, right? Community versus profit. There's a reason why Minnesota dominates USA hockey, and it's because the first and number one goal in everyone in Minnesota as they grow up is to play Minnesota high school hockey. They want to play for their town. That's what they want to do. Okay? Most of their rinks are owned by the community. Privatization has not crept in. Now they're fighting it. They're fighting it because there's money to be made. Okay? Youth sports, you know how much youth sports per year? What type of business it is? There was an article in Time Magazine a couple weeks ago. $15 billion a year, youth sports. And it's recession-proof. It's recession-proof. You ever get stuck? You want to make money? Tell a parent his kid is good at something and you can help him get better. They'll rip off 20s like it's their job. So we've gone from community to profitability. That's what this is about here in Massachusetts. Okay? Loyalty versus mercenaries. Right? Loyalty. Everyone, says, I'm looking for loyalty in someone, right? How can we be surprised as college coaches when kids switch teams when that's what they've been doing their whole life. I grew up in Dorchester. There were 2 leagues in Dorchester. There was Neponset and DLM, Dorchester Lower Mills. I couldn't play for DLM. I didn't live in their district, right? So if I'm the 3rd line center for Neponset's squad A team, and I want to be the 2nd or the 1st line center, I got 2 options. Murder one of the 2 guys ahead of me, which was an option, or get better. Or get better. Now what happens? You got someone somewhere else telling you you're getting screwed. Come over here, I'll help you get better. And the same result happens. Same result, okay? I heard a story. He was talking to Mike Sullivan. And listen, we got blood on our hands too in college. I'm not going to lie to you. We got blood on our hands, right? We're recruiting 13-year-olds, some people at our level. Minnesota just committed an 04. Think about that, right? Mike Sullivan was telling me a story about his college roommate, and Jack Parker had brought him in and said, listen, I don't think you're going to play here anymore. I don't think you're going to play here. I think you're going to have a tough time playing, okay? I'll honor your scholarship, and I'm going to treat you with respect, but I just want you to know that going in. And that young person decided to stay and tough it out. I don't know that it ended great. I don't know if he played much at all after that, but he stayed, right? You look at college, right? There's 350 basketball programs at the Division I level, okay? You know how many transfers there were last year? 800. 800, right? When I played, nobody left school and went to another school. Now it happens all the time. There was a school in our league cut 10 guys last year, right? So, and we can justify it, right? Because now when we go into the kid and we say, hey, geez, you know what? You might not play. Do you know what that player does now? They leave, right? They leave. There's been one player that I've known in my coaching career that has left one school because he wasn't getting the type of ice time that he wanted, went to another school and made the NHL. I got guys on my team that didn't play this weekend that think they still have a chance to play in the NHL. Respect for, deco. Who knows what a deco is? What's a deco? It's short for decommitment. I didn't know this a couple years ago when I was working a festival camp for USA Hockey, and I heard the young guys talking about it. Like, this is a word they use, right? First of all, decommitment is not a word. Look it up. It doesn't exist. You're either committed or you're not committed. There's no such thing as being decommitted, all right? But these are the lessons that we're teaching our kids. When it gets hard, leave. It's okay to go back on your word, right? Sports can be a great teacher of life lessons. You've got the story of Paul Junta, right? I think it was Paul Junta, right? Who's he? Isn't he the guy that murdered somebody in a shinny hockey game, right? And then you've got the female basketball player who had cancer, right? You've got Pete Frates. Think of how powerful that message is. It started with BC Baseball. Sports can teach amazing things, and we can also teach really bad things. It's got that power. How can we improve? Season's too long, too expensive, too distant. It's about winning. It's not about teaching. We've got messed up priorities. So I walk into my rink on a Thursday in early September, right? Just dropped my daughters off at school, and there's a youth tournament going on at 8:10 in the morning, all day, right? I missed that memo, right? When did it become okay to miss school for youth sports? There's no way my mother would have let us. So where do you come in? You got to fight back. And this is hard because, right, as a parent, you want your kids, and you commit to something, you're committed. Hey, I got 3 daughters, and sometimes that 5th ice session of the week, don't need it. My daughter's overwhelmed with schoolwork. We're not coming, right? So you're caught in a catch-22. You want your kids to be committed to it, right? There isn't a youth coach that I've talked to that hasn't said, we're looking for well-rounded athletes. You shouldn't specialize. You should play multi-sport. By the way, our season starts in August and it ends in April. And we're going to go 5 days a week. Good luck. When are you going to have time to do anything else? Right? So you're going to make tough decisions. Faith. Again, I'm not going to pretend because I'll get struck by lightning that I'm the most faithful guy here. When did Sundays get in play? Our Sundays in our house are the craziest of all days. My wife's completely pissed at me. I'm going to the Pats today. I'm leaving here, going to Darcy's in Quincy and getting on the Gronk bus. Right? My wife is bullshit. And family, right? Because of the cost of our sport, families are literally choosing which child they're going to invest in. What's the largest town program in New England? Who knows it? Paul, you know it. What is it? Andover. That's great for my daughters, right? Like I said, I grew up in Dorchester. I didn't know anybody from Andover that played hockey when I was growing up. We're the largest. Do you know why we're the largest? Because we can afford it. That's the reality. That's the life we live in, okay? And then the professionalization of youth sports. I think pro sports are great to aspire to as you get older, right? When you're 8 years old, you shouldn't be wearing a suit jacket and tie to go to the game, right? 8 years old, you don't need a dynamic stretch. You're made of rubber. You don't need the sweatsuits, the bag, the matching. That's what you earn. That's what you earn. I think that's all I got. So what does it mean to be a good coach? In my mind, again, this is opinion, wins versus losses can be deceiving. John Wooden, 11 years in a row. 11 years in a row of what? Who knows? No, he did that 10 years in a row. His first 11 years, he didn't make the NCAA tournament. You know what they call that now? Fired. Sean Walsh, 23, 57, and 2. These are the two of the best, maybe the best coaches of all time in college hockey. 23, 57, and 2. 27, 39, and 6, Jerry York. You know what those represent? Their first 2 years at their schools, right? Now, those are great coaches, right? Those are great coaches. Good teachers. They didn't have success. Why didn't they have success? There's a saying in my occupation. You can't win the Derby on a donkey, right? You didn't have good players. Didn't make them bad coaches. Those are three of the best coaches of all time. So how do you judge good coaches? You're the guardians of the game. The best coaches in youth sports teach life lessons, fundamental skills, right? At Merrimack, we've got 3 core principles. You ask any of the guys that have played for me what they are, and if they don't know the 3 core principles of Merrimack hockey, you write me, I'll send you a $20 bill, okay? We work hard. We work hard. We work hard, and we have to work harder than our opponents. We want to be physically and mentally tough. The mental toughness is probably the hardest, right? It's hardest to train as well. And then we don't make excuses, and we don't allow other people to make excuses for us. We adopt those core principles, not just because I think it's going to help us on the ice, because I believe that if you adopt those 3 core principles in your life, you can be good at whatever you do. If you get up in the morning and work hard, and you're physically tough and mentally tough, and physically tough simply keeping your body in shape, so I obviously don't practice what I preach, and you're mentally tough, and you don't make excuses, you can be a success at whatever you do. And that's what makes coaching young people the best job in the world. And so again, hopefully this didn't come off as preachy. I am thankful for what you do. You have an impact more than you'll ever know. At this point, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Purely opinion. And if not, I'll let you get back to your day. Yes, please.
Can you comment on the evolution of college sports in kids have to play a year, 2, 3 years between high school and college hockey? And a reflection on that, and the priority of college really should be academics. There seems to be a disjoint there in my mind.
There does, but a couple things. So I watched the West Virginia, Oklahoma State football game yesterday. Both quarterbacks were married with children. So it's not just hockey, number one. Number two, my mother had 3 kids when she was 23. That doesn't happen. So things happen later in my career. Right now, we recruit older guys. I've got some natural freshmen, some guys that graduate from high school and come right away. But I've also got 19, 20, 28, 21-year-old freshmen. And there's a lot of college kids that are wasting their parents' money. My guys tend to be more mature. They're there to get an education. So it's not all bad. When I get a 19, 20-year-old kid, he's already gone through what a teenager goes through. He comes to campus, he knows he's there to get a degree and to play hockey. And there's a social part, but he's already kind of done that, okay? So I think it's somewhat societal as well. People get married later, having kids later, they mature later. They do. So I don't think it's all bad, but there is this chasing the dream, and this is where youth sports at the highest level, like these junior teams. There's a lot of teams and juniors that are just stealing people's money. But like I said, I mean, you tell people there's a chance and they'll rip $20 bills off. You know, I tell friends of mine who have children that are going through it, first of all, don't necessarily hold your child back for athletics. If you go from public school to prep school, oftentimes the last year of PD year, trust me, with most schools, it's not because of hockey. Most schools, it's because they want you to be prepared academically to go further. What I tell my friends, and I've had a couple go through it, is, hey, after high school, if your son is good enough to play a year of juniors, I don't see much fault in that, okay? I wouldn't allow my child to do a second year without a deal, without some sort of commitment. Because oftentimes, the difference in school selection between that second, third year, it doesn't exist. It's the same. You end up the same place. You've just spent $30,000 more to get there and wasted 2 years. So that's a fair question. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Oh, you got one?
Well, you said earlier Massachusetts dropped the 4th in the nation. What are the top 3? I know Minnesota's probably one of them. I know it's not Maryland. So.
We got Minnesota, New York, Michigan. Minnesota, Michigan, New York. We're down to 10%. 25% to 10%. In that amount of time.
I have a question
Yes.
relating to that. What do you think, you know, we're hearing the numbers, the drop, we've seen the 66 from Finland and 16 for Boston. What do you think some of those factors are that attribute to that decline? Is it because back in 1990 they weren't playing hockey really in Arizona and Florida and the places where, you know, you typically wouldn't see ice? I mean, is it the fact that all of Finland has one program that every kid is going through, like if all of Boston was under the ADM, you know, that's fragmented here? I mean, what do you think are the
There's
biggest
a
drivers?
lot of factors.
What do you think are the biggest ones that drive that decline?
Yeah, I think season's too long, too expensive, travel too far. We choose elite teams at such a young age that hey, listen, if a kid isn't good at something, I guess, you know, we just talked about millennials, so to speak. If a kid isn't good at something, he's going to change to do something else. So at 8 years old, if he's not on the AAA elite, quadruple elite team, he goes to another sport. You know, a good friend of mine, right, this is how crazy our sport is. A good friend of mine coaches his sons for 14 years for youth sports. I had a daughter, coached her for the first 4 years. It was just gas. I mean, I look at the youth hockey head coach's schedule. You guys are on the next one with me, right? So his daughter was going into Pee-wees, whatever age that is. He told his daughter, this is a guy that I played with in college. He told his daughter, if you quit hockey, I'll buy you a pony. I'll put it in the backyard and I'll buy you a pony, right? The commitment to youth sports is crazy. I don't remember my parents making every practice, going every game. I mean, I feel like I'm a part-time driver for Uber. Just driving my kids to sporting events. You know, that didn't happen back in the day. So I think there's a lot of variables. Too far, too expensive, too long.
I heard the number yesterday, 48,000 kids enrolled in hockey in Massachusetts, and there were 16 players as a result of it. Does anybody know what that number was back in 1990? Is it like, did they have twice as many, you know, kids playing hockey because you didn't have baseball around the calendar and soccer?
Yep.
No, was it all, I mean, winter was either you played basketball or you played hockey, and that was pretty much it.
I
No,
don't know.
Do you know?
I don't. It's a great question. Richie?
Hey, Mark, I got a question. We're talking about those numbers right there, but really, what is a true definition of success for our youth programs right now? Is it really striving to get 16, 18, 20 elite players from Massachusetts?
Great question. No, I think, the NHL is investing in youth sports now. The NHL has a package, and Paul, you probably know more about it, where for $100, an underprivileged child can start hockey, right? They recognize that the sport's becoming too expensive, it's becoming elitist, and, hey, I love hockey, right? And most of the people I meet in hockey are fabulous. So by broadening the base, hopefully what you're gonna create is just more hockey fans. The sport that I love is gonna become even more popular than it is. That, you want kids, my daughter, my oldest daughter loves hockey. And I really brought the other one in hockey. It's been an organic thing for her. A lot of it was social initially, her friends. But now, literally, she was at the game last night, and I brought her in the coach's room after the game, and she had another friend of hers, she's drawing plays, And that was a real moment of pride for me. She loves the game. And that's what you hope. That's what you want. I want more people to love the game of hockey. Again, thanks. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mark.